So, good. Tourism is one of the North Bay's two key industries, which generates more than $3 billion for the economies of the North Bay and employs about 35,000 people, or 15% of the workforce. The industry actually generated $260 million in government revenues, which had the effect of basically lowering everyone's taxes by $760. So you'd have to pay, have had to pay that much more money if we didn't have this up here. Sustainable tourism is tourism which can be sustained over the long term because it results in a net benefit to the economic, social, natural, and cultural environments. And here you can see some of the ways in which we have some of the cultural traditions and things that we have going on in Sonoma County. According to the 2015 tourism industry study, the most commonly identified opportunities for growing Sonoma County tourism lies in the niche markets: culinary tourism, cycling, agritourism, ecotourism. But in addition to that, tourism accommodations, transportation, events, attractions consume considerable amounts of energy, water, fuel, and impact the natural environment. And so what we're looking at today is ways in which we can ameliorate that. And the good news, of course, is that savings from sustainable activities redounds to the revenues and the bottom lines of companies involved in the field. So it's not a matter just of environmental and social stewardship, it's an element in providing more revenue for the industry. And tourists are increasingly demanding environments that they visit are high quality, pollution-free, and interesting. So there's a clear connection between the environmental and commercial sustainability in reducing the resource impact. But in order to develop a strategic plan, we need to identify certain things that we could do. So these are what we're going to ask you to do, is think about some ideas, such as initiatives to reduce energy, water, and waste, policy to protect the fragile natural environment, suggestions to help stakeholders become more involved, and studies to assess the impact so that we know what we're doing, to measure things. So the workshop, as I mentioned earlier, will initiate a process to develop sustainable strategic plan, yet the ultimate responsibility will rest with the tourism agencies in the North Bay and Sonoma County and Napa County. We're hoping to involve in this the One Planet vision that we have here, and I think there's, and to use the information on the back of the sheets that are on in front of you there, and Sharmila will explain that to you in a few minutes. So you're going to be working in teams at the tables that you're sitting at in order to generate some ideas. We have a couple of panelists who are going to talk and give you a little bit of further information and thoughts to enrich your conversations, but the majority of the time is going to be spent talking among yourselves. So our first speaker is Malia Everette, and I'm going to turn things over to Malia here.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here. Yeah, thank you, Robert and Heather, and all of you for making the time to be here today. I'm going to just start with a quote. And I do so with the absolute intention of just setting the stage, if you will, for my few minutes here today. And it's a quote that I actually saw on the orientation materials on my first group trip that I ever took in my life in 1991. And it's by an Aboriginal activist named Lila Watson. And some of you might know it, but it basically says, if you've come here to help me, you're wasting your time. If you come because your liberation is wound up with mine, then let us work together. And I really think that when we talk about travel, when we talk about any kind of exchange between peoples, whether we're looking at bioregionalism here, from Bay Area folks coming up to the North Bay like today, or those of us with so much privilege to be able to travel around the world, it's really incumbent on us to make the right choices ethically, but also economically. And so I've been asked just to speak just for a few minutes really about how tourism, how sustainable tourism, how ecotourism, and how all of these, this new kind of movement that so many of us are trying to really exemplify and build in our day-to-day, operations that we have both in the United States and around the world. We do so with that ethical intention, but we also fundamentally need to look at the big business of travel. I mean, it's so inspiring being here to talk about zero waste and solar energy and all these concrete things we can do in our day-to-day lives to make the world a better place and to leave it better off for our children and my children, hopefully my grandchildren, to come. And yet, so many people don't think tourism is serious. We think it's a fluff industry. I mean, when you look at the billions of dollars that are coming into Sonoma, that's amazing. What and how are we going to steward those stories forward? What is the impact of indigenous communities here? What is the benefit of tourism dollars and receipts to local communities who were here before? And these are some of the questions that I always hold up, whether I'm working in Santa Fe or Washington, D.C., the South, Hawaii, or Cuba or Ecuador, Costa Rica, or any of the other 87 places that we run programs around the world. I was asked to speak just for a few seconds about preserving communities and culture through that. And what I will say is I've been in the travel sector for over 20-something years, and I've been very blessed to come at travel as a radical economist. My master's in international relations. I didn't think I'd be a tourism professional ever in a day, and it happened to me, where one day I woke up and went, whoa, this I am. It was identity, shock. But I had always valued myself as an educator and as an activist, as a social advocate for social change. I worked for 16 years at a nonprofit human rights organization, building their travel programs around the world to connect with communities, to learn about their aspirations, to hear their struggles, to hear their stories, and to really just be motivated and inspired by those stories. And I found that the travelers got so much from that experience, and oftentimes the communities did, but not in a way that I thought was strong enough. I knew qualitatively the impact of what we were doing was very positive, but I didn't ever have the quantitative data to show what it was. So when I lost my job 3 years ago and created Altruvistas, Altru for being in service of others, and vistas en español, ya tú sabes. But I did so with that fundamental question is, how can those of us in the travel industry address the biggest problem that I see in it? And that is fundamentally the lack of equity within it. And when I mean that, I don't mean it as just in terms of, us traveling and having this beautiful vacation, but where the money goes. Communities all around the world want to have better infrastructure, take care of their children, have a better life, and tourism can do that. The UN Millennium Goals can be met when communities themselves own a percentage of the profits, the revenues that are coming into the country. 1 out of every 11 jobs in the world is supplied by the service industry, and tourism has a huge ability to do that. I can go on, and I will share with you specific examples that I have around the world. I know I've got 30 seconds or something like that. But what I will say is it's really easy to do. It's not that difficult. It's about vetting. And what does that mean? You have to do your due diligence on your supply chain. Ask the hard questions. And the easy questions. Who owns you? And please do not buy those all-inclusive travel packages on Hotwire, Travelocity, and those other sites, because 80 to 90%, 70% leaves the country. It's capital flight. It leaks back to the global It leaks back to the global north and doesn't do much to benefit those local communities that you really want to support ethically and with your hard-earned vacation dollars. So thank you so much for allowing me to share a little bit with you today about my passion.
Well, that's a hard act to follow. First of all, I want to thank Robert for inviting me, and I'm very honored to be here with Sharmila and also with Malia, who I'm blessed to have on my board of directors. So I have looked at Malia as a role model for a long time. So I am executive director of a nonprofit called Bay Area Green Tours. And when you hear the word tours, it usually comes across as kind of a fluffy thing, when in reality, what we do is we try to connect people to solutions for the future. So we launched about 8 years ago and I come from an educational and activist background with a master's in education. I was a school teacher, and I realized nobody wants to have someone speak to them and talk to them. They want to do something actively. And I think the best way to learn anything is to connect people to real life models. And I know you do that by taking them to other countries. I do that around the Bay Area. I actually have one of my local tour managers and guides, Aspen Madrone, right here, and Heather has also worked with me. So what I do is I find experts in the area who live in the community, who know what the local resources are, so that we can connect youth in particular to go out and find out what are some of the jobs for the future. If you're going to school and you're learning all these things, how do you know what you really want to do? So that's one of my greatest passions, is to get kids out to see role models, understand what the future can look like. And if we don't see it, how do we know about it? How do we prepare for it? So one of and I have family, and I've been spending most of my life in Cazadero and Guerneville and Santa Rosa, so I know the area really well. My folks live in Napa, and I've seen what's happened to Napa. I've seen what's happened where, it's all wine. And I see that the local economy here is learning from what happened in Napa, just like Oakland's learning what happened in San Francisco. So I know that they're starting to replant trees here, as a result of the cider industry, so that we don't just grow wine in Sonoma. I think it's really important for people to come here and see the models that are here. I do believe that especially Sonoma County is the most progressive county that has the models that I really want to connect people to. So we actually work with some farms. We bring people there to do work days, or we actually rent out some farms as a way to help support our nonprofit. And we're really looking to find partners all the time where we can teach people about what they're doing. So it's really an interactive organization. It's not just some people sitting in a room somewhere that don't know what's going on. We really try to find the experts who are our conduit to what we call the solutionaries all over the Bay Area. In particular, if you know anybody that I should know about, or Aspen and I should know about, we want to know what people are doing. We're involved with the Community Resilience Challenge, with Trathan and Daily Acts. So we're really activists, to tell you the truth. We're just doing some tours with LinkedIn and starting to work with the tech industry, hoping that maybe they would match funds. So when we take a group of LinkedIn out to do a San Mateo Coast tour or a Sonoma tour, we'll ask them, could you adopt a local school? Maybe take kids from East Palo Alto out to do a tour, so that everybody gets an opportunity to see, where does your food come from? In my youth, I actually dropped out in the 70s and lived on an organic farm, totally off the grid, no electricity, no running water, the whole thing. And I was surrounded by people growing food. They're still doing it. They're my friends. They're the aging farmers that we have to consider, and this is an agricultural area. So my goal is to take young people out in particular to see what are the jobs in agriculture. And it's so exciting to see what's happening right now. There is this whole new generation of back to the land young people, and what they've got the internet, they can connect to each other. So I'm kind of coming full circle back to my roots and seeing this happening, and it's very exciting. So Sonoma County is definitely I think the greatest model in the Bay Area, and the more I can bring people here to learn from the change makers and local solutionaries, the happier I am. What was that? That was fast. Okay. Thank you. And we have a booth you can stop by and visit.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Sharmila Singh. I'm with Rev Sustainability. As a sustainability coach, we work with businesses and organizations to help improve their overall sustainability impact. We do this in a peer-to-peer business model, and specifically in a sustainability action plan. We have several organizations who are here with us today that we've worked with. Lagunitas, Strauss Creamery. And if you want to talk to us and learn more, I know we're on a short time frame. Susan Hopp is one of our coaches as well as on our sales team, and we have a table in the other room. So please come talk to us if you're interested in learning more. So now let's have some fun. So you guys are grouped in specific categories. We've heard from some great thought leaders, Malia, and Marissa and Robert. Now we're going to hear from you. So we're going to get into these groups of topics. On your table, you'll have a sheet that has 3 specific questions. So 4 specific questions. We're going to spend our first few minutes introducing one another. You're going to have one facilitator for each table. So we're going to get to know each other. Then you're going to have about 3 to 4 minutes to review the 4 questions. And then we're going to discuss. You can notice you have butcher paper on each table. We're going to have some fun and brainstorm and draw and think creatively. I know we're short on time, so we can go through to lunch. So we can stay, and I imagine we're going to be having some.
You don't need to.
But if you find you make a connection with some people and you get really involved in things, feel free to go into the lunch hour, because that's the next activity. I'm not suggesting that you skip lunch. Not at all. Don't do that.
We're not holding you hostage. Okay, great. So we're each going to come to the table.
The leaders at the tables.